Hello and welcome again to Used Car Heaven. Lots more cars to show you in this programme, including two extremely hot Retmobiles, the Vauxhall Vectra GSi and the Mondeo ST200. Two extremely quick cars, but which is the better to drive and which is the better to buy? We'll show you. Plus in part one, a car which is now defunct, the Ford Cougar. It only lasted 3 years, but we think they're a bit of a bargain, and we'll show you how. And in part two, we drive the everlasting VW Golf, which are now available at ridiculously silly money. These cars are a bit good. I mean, they don't half go a bit, don't they, the Vectra GSIs?
Definitely do, with just under 200 brake horsepower under the bonnet. They don't hang about.
So how have these sort of cars held up in the marketplace? Do they tend to depreciate quicker than the standard saloon versions of, say, the Vectra?
They tend to hold the value a little bit better than the normal ones we're seeing at the moment. I mean, particularly the SRI, as soon as we get them in, they're gone, and that's the 1.8 and the 2 litre. But this one, having all the toys on it, it's actually fully loaded Recaro interior, and with the load suspension with the skirts on it, looks very much the business.
These cars are quite rare. Does that add extra value to them? Does it make them more expensive because there are so few of these particular models about?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, they're quite a desirable motor car. They drive extremely well, and they do have a certain following.
What are the downsides to having a sportier version of a Vectra like this? I mean, what about wear and tear, insurance, tyre wear, things like that?
All of those are a little bit dearer than the norm. I mean, obviously you've got a performance engine under the bonnet, so it's going to need better spark plugs, better oil, that type of stuff. Obviously tyres as well on these aren't cheap. The big low profile tyres, you're talking around about £800 for a good set of tyres for this.
Do you think that these sort of cars, the performance versions of sort of standard saloons, have taken over from like the hot hatchbacks in the marketplace these days?
Yeah, certainly. The people that used to drive the little Renault 5 Turbo enjoyed themselves immensely back in the 90s. So things like this, as those car drivers has matured, obviously they need a bigger car if they've got families, etc. These things give you a little bit more drivability. You can go down the motorway at 70 miles an hour in one of these without getting rattled to death.
I've always thought that the Vectra has had a bit of a rough ride from the motoring press and the likes, who have panned it ever since it was first introduced. It underwent a bit of a change about 2 to 3 years ago, which smartened the car up, and they did make some serious revisions to it. And this GSi certainly has benefited from those. The steering and the handling are very sharp and very precise. A lovely, slick, smooth 5-speed gearbox. The brakes are excellent, if not a little spongy at first perhaps, but once you put your foot down hard, you know that this car is going to stop you in a hurry. Now, there's a new Vectra out in about 2 years' time, and that is going to have to be extremely good to compete with the likes of the brand new Ford Mondeo and the new Renault Laguna as well. But if you're looking for a fast car, we're talking fast here, that has a bit of a good look to it as well, and is pretty good value for money, the Vectra GSi might well be on your shopping list.
So, Mondeo ST200, another good looking car and extremely fast. Do these things sell well?
Extremely well. We seem to sell, well, we do sell every vehicle that we buy. We've seen quite a few of these over the last couple of months, but with the special paint on them, the Recaro seats, they just look the part.
What do you think makes them so special? What appeals to people on these cars?
204 brake horsepower, I would say, plus they're extremely comfortable, driving incredibly well.
Now that the new Mondeo's come out to replace this shape, what sort of effect has that had on the values of these cars and the Mondeos in general?
The Mondeos in general have been very good sellers, but the new shape coming out obviously has helped depreciate them slightly, but not by very much at all, as you would expect with any manufacturer bringing out a new shape vehicle. Obviously they become more desirable, so therefore make the older shape just less desirable.
What was the reason that the ST24 was replaced by the Mondeo ST200?
It's because the GSi was just slightly pipping it at the post of the brake horsepower stakes, so Mondeo decided to hit back with just a slightly beefier suspension, better drivability, and just a few more horses under the bonnet.
Mass-produced cars like the Mondeo and the Vectra tend to get a bit of a bad press, but they're not that bad cars, and people tend to buy them in big numbers, don't they?
Well, because they sell in big numbers, it means they're readily available second-hand for the man in the street, so they come down in value quite nicely. They hold on to their money once they've dropped initially from the new prices because of the rarity of the cars. So people tend to enjoy driving them, and obviously, if looked after and got a full service history, should recoup quite a lot of their money back.
Has this car held on to its value better than the Vectra GSi, or are we talking about much the same really?
I would say same of the same, because the car's actually slightly dearer than new from the GSi now because of the leather interior. I would say much of a muchness.
It's always interesting when you jump from one car into another, two cars that are very, very similar, to see what the differences are. And I think you can immediately tell in the Mondeo that it has a slightly softer suspension setup, which is quite surprising to me. The ride is a little bit softer around town. The steering is very precise, the gearbox is nice and slick, and the brakes are good, as you would expect. So if you're going to buy this sort of car, you want to know about performance, don't you? Well, it's pretty good, and it matches the Vectra almost to 0.1 of a second. We're talking about 7.6 seconds in the 0 to 60 dash, a top speed of 140 miles an hour, and it'll do the sprint to 100 miles an hour, should you be in Germany on the Autobahn, of course, in about 20 seconds, which isn't bad. Inside, I like the interior. I like the carbon fibre, I like the trim, I like the Recaro seats. But you can't get away from the fact that it is basically underneath a Mondeo. And they've come on leaps and bounds with the new Mondeo. And this, well, it all looks a bit dated. But it's very comfortable, it's a nice place to be. I like the white on blue dials on the instrument panel too, and discreet little touches around that indicate that this is 200 brake horsepower and an ST200 on the dials and on the gear lever as well.
So it's decision time. Which of these extremely cooking cars would I take home tonight if I had to buy one? Well, I've been pleasantly surprised. I really expected the Mondeo ST200 to come out on top and be the better car. It's got more power, I like the looks of it. But out on the road, it's not quite up to the mark in my opinion. I think that the Vectra GSi is a better car to drive. It's got a good suspension, it's very sporty and a nice feel to it too. Forget all you hear about Vectras being bad cars, they're not. And for £14,000, I reckon that this is a good buy. Now, I was in Detroit 3 years ago when Ford first launched the Cougar, and they launched it with all the American razzmatazz that you would come to expect. But Ford have decided, for whatever reason, to pull the plug, and you can buy them for seriously cheap money. The Cougar's not been around that long. I mean, only about 3 years its lifetime, and Ford have decided to pull the plug. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a nice car. It's got a V6 engine in there, but it's not quite the size of the ST24 or the Vectra GSi. It's a 2+2, so you need to be fairly short to get in the back of them, and you certainly wouldn't want to do a long distance there.
And before this car, we had the Probe from Ford. The success with the sort of medium-sized coupes is not great, is it?
Not really. Again, I think it's the lack of space in the back, but also as well the drivability of the cars weren't exactly thrilling. I mean, they look great, but they drive more like a Granada.
So this is what, just over £10,000 for this car. What was it when it was new?
About £19,000, I believe, from the main dealers. Slightly cheaper now.
So they're starting to depreciate quite quickly. Is that because they've now been discontinued?
Well, also, and that because obviously supply and demand. There's plenty of other cars out there. They don't quite actually meet the hit the target like, say, the Toyota Celica, which has brilliant looks and lots of drivability, whereas this looks good but doesn't quite match the drivability of the Celica.
And what about problems? Anything to worry about on the Cougar range at all?
Well, nothing directly from the main dealers from brand new, but we've had a little bit of a problem over the last couple of weeks where customer wanted a change of wheels, so we found that the car drove terribly until we found out they had to change the geometry on the electronics of the vehicle to make it drive properly. So be very careful if you change the wheels on one of these, make sure that you have it done by a professional.
It's funny in a way that Ford had success with what they call their new age design styling, of which the Cougar is one of those cars that comes from that sort of stable. They've had that success with the likes of the Puma and the Focus, but the Cougars never really caught on. And it's a shame in some ways, but if you're looking for a good used coupe to buy, then that means, well, you can pick these up for quite low prices. The key rivals, I would say, to the Cougar would be something like the Peugeot 406, which is a very, very stylish car indeed, or perhaps the Fiat Coupé, which has also gone out of production rather interestingly. You get a choice of two different engines, a 2-litre 16-valve 4-cylinder, or this 2.5 V6 Duratec with about 175 brake horsepower. It's enough to get the car from 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds and a top speed of 130 miles an hour. It's no great stormer, but it's quick enough and it's fun to drive, and it's a very comfortable, very smart cabin to be in. And this particular 2.5 V6 gets all the toys, air conditioning, a quality stereo system. It gets controls on the steering wheel for the radio and the cruise control as well. But remember that the Cougar was essentially designed to be a car to take on the American market, although it is a worldwide car as well.
Well, that's it for part 1 of Used Car Heaven, but stay with us for lots more in part 2, including how you can buy a quality VW Golf for not very much money. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Used Car Heaven. Now, if you're looking for a sensibly priced small to medium sized car that you know is going to be reliable and could potentially rack up huge mileages, then for me there is only one car to buy, and that's from Germany, and it's the Volkswagen Golf. You might fancy something like this Mk2 Golf driver, or this Mk3 Golf driver, or you might want to go for the sporty car, the car that started off the GTI revolution, the Golf GTI. We'll show you how much to pay for one to get a really good example and what to look out for in this part of Used Car Heaven. Who was the original Mark I Golf aimed at? What sort of buyer were they looking for?
I think directly they were trying to look at people's cars. The name translates, Volkswagen, certainly the sports market was something which came later. They were just looking at a reliable everyman's car to replace the original Beetle.
And it's amazing how the same sort of shape and style of the Golf has lasted throughout the generations, isn't it?
I think you can identify the car, even if they brought a Mark 5 out tomorrow and nobody said what it was. They've stayed with what I think the stylist exercises call the hockey post, which is the rear flank of the car, and you can identify that on Mark 1, 2, 3 and 4 as it's a Golf from a long distance side on.
So Mark I Golfs are becoming increasingly rare and presumably difficult to find in good condition that you want to buy.
Yeah, it's just the passage of time. They've now moved into firmly into classic car status. What are left are either tatty examples or excellent examples which someone belongs to a club and it's their pride and joy. For daily transport, I'm sure there'll be plenty that would argue with us, but they're now getting a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit rattly and a little bit noisy, but nevertheless it's stood the test of time. One of the few vehicles that you still see on the roads today where they'll continue passing MOT tests from a structural point of view with little or no problem.
So if you're going to buy a Golf, really forget about a Mark I, aim for something like this, a Mark II.
I think you ought to be starting with a Mark II as the base level if you want reliable daily transport that's got some creature comforts. Mark II is really where it's at, and they're still reasonable to buy. They're not expensive cars.
So what sort of price do you need to pay for a good example like this? I mean, where should you be looking?
I think on a private market for entry-level cars, 1.3s, you can probably pick something up for sort of £1,400–1,500 that's in good order. Anything less than that, you should be a little bit dubious, unless of course it's done a million miles. But if you're moving into buying something from a specialist, then it ought to be around the £2,000 market for the non-sports versions. And on that, of course, you'd expect the car to be of some calibre with a warranty and properly sorted. But you should be able to get a nice car for around £2,000.
And are these cars complicated to service and expensive to service?
No, it's a bit of an urban myth. The servicing, first of all, is 10,000 mile intervals, which for the age of the car is quite good. the parts. A lot of companies now, especially big companies, specialising in parts on Volkswagen where they're no longer in production. You know, your German and Swedish, your Eurocar parts, URO, all these sort of people will provide parts at very economical figures. I would go as far as to say that Mk2 and for that matter Mk3 Golfs are amongst the cheapest cars to run at this sort of price on the market. Complete urban myth. They don't go wrong as often, and when they do, the bits really aren't that expensive.
One great thing about Golf is the fact that they hold on to their money very well. They don't depreciate very fast. Why has that evolved over the years? Is it because they're just so well built cars and there's a demand for them as well?
I think so. I think what you've got to say is for a car of this size, it clearly is built to a higher standard than other vehicles of this size. If you purely take the bodywork, you know, you mentioned a Mk2 Golf, the floors are galvanised on both sides. The car was wax injected from new and came with a 6-year warranty, even on the last of the Mark 1s. So, you know, this filters through. Joe Public realises that it's got a much longer life than most small cars. That reflects in high residual values and people hanging on to them. So yes, it's a logical progression through that they keep the price well.
The Mk2 Golf was introduced in 1984 and with its legendary build quality makes even older cars a good buy. Main VW dealers no longer stock Mk2 Golfs, so your best bet is private sales or specialist dealers. Here's a few ideas of typical prices. A 3-door 1991 H-Reg, £1,200. A 1990 G-Reg 1.6 driver, 96,000 miles with full service history, £1,400.
It's been quite a while since I've driven a Golf, let alone a Mk2 Golf like this, and it's really good to step back inside one again and just feel how solid they are, how well built, and of course how reliable, and the fact that you can rack up big mileages in these cars without too many major worries. If you're looking for a Golf, what would we recommend? Well, we would certainly recommend that you go for a 1.6 engine at least. The 1.3 and 1.4 cars can be a little bit underpowered. We'd also recommend that you go for a car that's got power assisted steering, because otherwise they're pretty heavy, particularly around town. All right on a run and all right when you're motoring, but you will find if you're nipping back and forth to the shops or in the supermarket car park or something like that, if you have a car that hasn't got power assisted steering, you will find it very heavy. What is it, do you think, that made the Golf GTI so special and has become such an icon over the years?
Good question. I think the sports car of old always had to have 2 seats, a rag top and a long bonnet, and Volkswagen's biggest regret was not patenting the letters GTI. They suddenly put a hatchback Practicality family use car with sports car performance all in one package. Had to be an icon that everybody was going to copy.
If you're going to look for one, what do you need to look out for and be aware? I mean, quite a lot have probably been victims of clocking. What are the telltale signs?
I think a general looseness in the car. You should find that these cars up to 80,000–90,000 miles are still very tight in the gearbox. You know, the whole car should feel very taut. It shouldn't have a tremendous effect on shock absorbers and springs. It should still feel very much there. If the car generally feels as though it doesn't pull very well, if it feels soggy, all the usual things that you'd expect on buying any second-hand car, is usually a pretty good giveaway. Old benchmark was steering wheel losing its grain, but power steering masks a lot of that these days. They hide the miles well.
Finding a good Mk2 or Mk3 GTI is fairly difficult these days, isn't it?
Well, there's plenty of them around and they'll see high miles, but the problem is most of them have seen the high miles. To get something with nice, sensible miles on, which of course everybody wants from condition to long life, is hard work, because these cars, when they're new, are bought largely as work vehicles. You see them going up and down the motorway every day.
So it's decision time if you're after a Golf GTI. Nice cars are getting more difficult to find now, but an H-Reg Mk2 shouldn't cost any more than £3,000 in a private sale. We saw a J-Reg 16-valve GTI for just over £3,000. Mk3 Golfs move up a gear and you probably need to be looking to spend over £5,000 to get a really good one.
We saw an N-Reg 8-valve GTI on sale at £5,250. And the 2.8 VR6 with fantastic performance is going to set you back around £7,200 for an M-Reg 64,000 mile example. Now on the Mark IIIs they increased the entry-level engine from a 1.3 up to a 1.4, and although the 1.4 Golfs give you a good combination of fuel economy and value for money motoring, if you are looking to do a lot of long distance driving, particularly motorway driving, and you are carrying loads as well, you may find the 1.4s a bit underpowered. A 1.6 would be a better option. If you're looking for a great combination of fuel economy and performance, then look out for the turbo diesels. The Mark III turbo diesels are remarkably good cars, and you get fantastic fuel economy. We're talking about 50 to 60 miles to the gallon on average from a car like this. Absolutely brilliant, and nothing really compares to that. The main rivals for the Golf are something like a Peugeot 306, the Escort and the Vauxhall Astra, but I don't think that any of those cars come close to the driving experience of a Golf. Now this 2-litre GTI that I'm driving is a K-plated example. It's done just 32,000 miles, it's got full service history with it, it's had one lady owner, it's been remarkably well looked after, and these are the sort of examples of cars that you need to try and find if you're looking for a good GTI. £5,000 or so would buy you an example like this.
Now, although this Mark II Golf is getting on a bit in age, I think these are reliable cars and they'll give you a lot of great service over the years if you look after them. You can immediately see the difference between the Mark II and the Mark III. The Mark II is squarer and more boxy. The Mark III, they rounded off and made a lot more stylish. But I think if you do want a Golf and you want a bit of performance, it's worth paying that little bit extra for the Golf GTI. Most other car manufacturers have at some time tried to imitate what Volkswagen did with the GTI, but none, in my opinion, have come close. That's it for this episode of Used Car Heaven. Join us again at the same time next week.